Okay, if I can have everyone's attention. So today we have guests Karen Appleton and Andrew Martinez-Fonts from Prosper.com to talk about the Prosper lending marketplace. And I will ask, this is being videotaped, so please keep any Google Confidential questions to yourself until after the videotaping has ceased.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Good. Excellent. Has anybody heard of Prosper yet? Oh, excellent. Okay, that's fantastic. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, so then you know kind of the basics. We can spend some time on the more fun stuff, but I'll kind of go through the presentation. Please feel free to ask questions, and as we go along. Although if we get kind of a whole lot, we can save them till the end. But feel free if you have a clarifying point you'd like to make in the beginning, we can go for that. Prosper, as you know, is an online marketplace. It's like an eBay for money, bringing together people who want to borrow money with people who have money to lend in a safe and trusted marketplace. We handle the administration and all of the processing, including payments, collections, verification and validation of individuals, and do all the credit and anti-fraud checks. It's a positively disruptive technology, and it's disintermediating the banks, so it's pretty fun marketplace. Prosper brings a sense of community to lending by leveraging the power of groups to improve borrower repayment under the key premise that people act more responsibly when their actions have group consequences. The benefit is higher than average repayment of loans due to lower defaults and better return on investment for lenders. Prosper represents the first time that people can participate directly in the lucrative lending markets and empowers individuals who are looking for alternatives in personal finance. Can earn higher returns than in money markets and CDs and create a highly diversified portfolio. And there's also the benefit of this great lender community that has emerged that's really enriches the whole process. Just to touch kind of on the history of the credit markets, through centuries and generations, there's been community-based lending in villages and towns, between friends and family. And more recently, the community-based lending model has evolved into credit unions and savings and loans. And in these models, we see strong borrower loyalty and low acquisition costs, but there's a very low lender diversification. Today, credit markets and banks, credit cards and banks are the key sources of credit. And while they experience excellent diversification, there is little loyalty and very high acquisition costs. So in the Prosper community, we see excellent lender diversification due to the one-to-many approach. The cost that it takes a credit card company to actually convert you to be a client, you get the mailings and the advertising and everything else, that's an acquisition cost. So we see an excellent lender diversification here due to the one-to-many approach that lenders take when bidding on loans, low default rates from borrowers due to the strong sense of community that is established, and the low acquisition costs because we're using groups as a leverage point to drive borrowers to the Prosper site. The loan listings, when they come onto the site, they're cataloged, and it's a pretty eBay-like approach to listing items, and we kind of have the borrowers as the items or the objects for sale, or basically the borrowers that are requesting credit, and they're shown in a summary format. And in addition, it's a very searchable database where you can look for a variety of characteristics that you might be specifically searching for, and you can look by credit grade and by other characteristics and pull those borrowers' requests that most match the strategy that you're going to put together as a lender. We show the scale of credit grade and corresponding score. When a borrower comes onto our site, we take a lot of data from them to verify and validate that they are who they say they are. In addition, we pull an Experian ScoreX Plus credit check, which we then assign that score, which is much like a FICO score, to a credit grade, which is how lenders can then evaluate the borrowers who come to the site. This is an example of a borrower listing. And we've had every type of listing so far that you can imagine, everything from breast enhancements to breast reductions and plastic surgery and credit consolidation and startup businesses. And this one is an example for a documentary film, State of the Union. You can see that we provide a lot of summary data so that the lender can make an evaluation. This particular borrower is looking for $10,000. And what he does when he comes on, yes? Do we map credit ratings to default rates? We provide both data points for you to evaluate. So you'll see that, I believe in the next screen, you'll see how that appears. So the borrower will state the max interest rate that they're willing to pay on the loan. So the borrower's coming in and saying, hey, I'd like to borrow $10,000, and the max I'm willing to pay for that is 13.75%. In addition, we show some of the other core metrics. There are timed listings, so you can come on and you can create listings that will go from a range of 3 to 10 days, or you can request an automatically funding loan, which means that as soon as it's funded, you're closed and you're good to go. On the right-hand side where you see the borrower information, this is the borrower's user ID on the site. This particular borrower is a member of the group, and I'm going to talk about the group again, but the groups are what drive the sense of community on the site. And some other key data points. We've got the credit grade. This person is an A-rated score, and if you looked on the last one, you can see an A has a FICO of 720 to 759. So you get a good sense of that person's both ability to repay and desire to repay, because you can measure both from the kind of the key metrics. This person's not been delinquent. You can kind of gauge this person's credibility by some of the metrics that we provide. In addition, we allow the borrower to state with as much or as little detail as they'd like the purpose of this loan. So the lender then has almost everything that they would need to know about this particular borrower to determine if this is an investment that they would like to make. You can see a rate of 13.75% is a pretty darn good return on your investment. Okay, so we're kind of living on the spread that the credit card companies have always taken. So you put your money in the bank, you're making 2%. The banks are lending it out to the credit card users at 19, 29, something like that, and they've got that spread, which is how they fund the acquisition costs of getting all their clients. But we're kind of taking that out of the equation. The spreads are now given back to both the borrower and the lenders on return. Once you decide that you want to make a bid on a particular loan request, there are two ways to bid. This is an example of a manual bidding process. And what we show you is kind of that summary data, again, what you're bidding on, and then the bid details. You can bid in increments of $50. One thing that we strongly recommend to all lenders is that you create a very diversified portfolio. It's very rarely recommended, unless it's perhaps a friend-to-friend situation, that you bid large increments of money. Like you would never come in and bid that whole $10,000 on that documentary unless maybe you knew the guy and you thought it was a great idea. But typically you'll come in increments of as little as $50 so that you create for yourself this very broad-based diversified portfolio of loans. But we're showing you here the Experian historical default rates. So on all the A's that we have in this massive Experian database, an A is likely to default at 0.9%.
You show Prosper's default rate, the default rate at Prosper's market.
Yes. So the question is, do we show Prosper's default rates? At the moment, we're creating that data right now. We've been live since February the 13th of this year. So our data is not yet as rich as the Experian data is, but as we build our files and we develop that information, we will make it published on our site. We intend to have a completely transparent site. So you will be able to know what were the Experian default rates and what have the Prosper default rates been. So yes, you'll be able to see that.
This doesn't mention terms. Is this a 10-year loan, a 2-year loan?
All of our loans are 36-month terms, fully amortized, no prepayment penalty. Okay, so that's just the one package we have right now. But over time, of course, you'll see the expansion of the set of products.
Are they all unsecured loans?
Yes, all of our loans are currently unsecured. Okay, so and then we have a $25,000 max. So basically, all states are different. We currently operate under individual state charters. So currently we have to adhere to whatever the state requirements are. And typically, in general terms, there's a minimum of $1,000 and a max of $25,000 right now on those loans, and they're all unsecured.
You mentioned having a transparent site. Are you planning to expose APIs so that borrowers, so that lenders can find all this information how they want?
Yes, the question is, do we intend to have an API? Our API is set for launch at the end of the summer.
Can we be beta testers?
Can you be beta testers? That's up to Andrew. Andrew
Yeah.
can.
I'll take your business card at the end, or you can have mine, either way.
Okay, so again, here at the moment we have the Experian historical default rates. You can see there's a 0.9%. So as you bid, you want to keep that in mind, because if you've got this diversified portfolio, and for the sake of easy math, if you've got 100 loans in your portfolio and they're all kind of in the same bucket as this, you can expect to have a 0.9% default rate. If you're making 13.75, Prosper charges a 0.5% servicing fee, and there's a 0.9% chance of default, you can kind of get to the point of understanding what your returns are going to be. And I don't know whether anybody's got a stock portfolio right now that's returning at 13.75, but if you do, then you're doing the right thing, and if you don't, you should be on Prosper. Yes?
Default rates are annual?
Yeah, this is the historical default rate is based on 2 years of Experian data,
But it's an annualized rate.
but it's an annualized rate. It's so unbelievable. Yes.
It's almost nothing. It's not people that money for so little money. It's even lower than the CD or a saving account.
This is the default rate. This is not the return. The return, you're gonna the amount at which you're lending is 13.75%. And the expected default on that is 0.9. So you take the 13.75 minus the 0.9 minus the 0.5 servicing fee. So you're left in the neighborhood of 12-ish. So your return would be about 12%. So
Well, hold on though, you said it was an annualized rate, so over the 3-year term, 0.6% of those will fall.
Well, okay, but it's over. They're 2-year loans. You're right that it's not an absolute sort of
the math is not
apples to
perfect
apples,
on.
comparison, but it's fairly close because of the amortization schedule of the loan. If the loan defaults in the 34th month, you're losing a lot less than you would in the middle of the second year. So, or
I sort of like really find out the number of I feel like too many people like asking for money, and basically they're not going to get their loans off, and they're basically just the lending rate is going to wait for way too much depending on one side of the equation.
Right. So your question has to do with balance on the, how do you balance the number of borrowers on the site with the number of lenders on the site?
Are you guys one side too heavy and are you
Well, yeah, that's what our whole purpose is, to sort of build this marketplace. And again, we draw a lot of comparisons to eBay because they had the same situation. Is it the products that drive the business, or is it the buyers that drive the business? And in our case, of course, the borrowers are the product and the lenders are the buyers. And we have to manage that equation very, very, very carefully. And yes, we are working on a lot of initiatives and programs that seek to balance that equation. I don't think either are hard to get, really. It's been surprising. I think it's a matter of keeping everything kind of moving forward at the same pace, as opposed to getting one or the other. It's a pacing issue.
How many lenders and how many borrowers do you have currently?
How many lenders and how many borrowers? Since we're a private company and we were only about 6 months old, we don't release data like that, but I can tell you that it's been imbalanced so far, that relatively speaking, I think as much as we can expect so far, and the growth has been incredible. I'm driven a lot right now by the press. We were just in Business Week last week as the IT 100, and we've been in the Wall Street Journal 3 times. We've been, in The Economist, Smart Money, and many, many TV shows, including ABC World News Tonight, and that has driven a lot of the kind of the initial visits to the site, and then it's our responsibility to make conversions.
Can you tell me, if I went on the site now, how many loans I might be choosing from?
Yes, currently on the site, we've got anywhere from, say, 900 to 1,200 listings. And since they fluctuate, they kind of are flowing in and out at any given time. Some are closing and rolling off. Others go unfunded. In the sense of a true marketplace, we do not sort of qualify the borrowers in terms of what they're requesting and whether or not it makes sense. We allow the marketplace to make that final buying decision. So you could have a borrower who comes on the site and says, I'm a high-risk borrower and I want you to lend me $25,000 at 5%. Well, the market's not going to bid on that. So that type of a loan will just expire unfunded. But we don't want to step in and say, hey, you might want to change this or that, or we just don't want to micromanage the process. We kind of want to let the marketplace drive the flow. Yes?
So what happens, according to the terms and all that, if Prosper itself goes out of business? The update?
What happens if Prosper goes out of business? We have initiatives in place that people would step in and take over the loans. These loans actually become assets to you. So you actually technically are not a lender on the site. We technically are the lenders. What happens is in the regulatory environment requires that when that loan closes and originates, we technically own it for a nanosecond before we then redivide it and technically resell it to you. It becomes an asset to you. So it's yours, and it would then be just a matter of servicing it if something should happen to us, but we're not going anywhere. Yes?
One of the reasons for repayment works so well is that I can look at the previous history of the seller and based on that, get the information on whether or not and for a prospect, that's not really the case because most of the people who are able here and work for the first time. And as a lender, I've used this, and I've had the feeling that I did not get enough information about the potential work. And there have been some crazy cases about a guy who gets first a guy and doesn't get the money, and 2 weeks later he has a picture of the girl and he gets to the girl. So, and you, as a policy, you do not disclose names, and we are legally obliged not to try to get the money yourselves.
Right.
So are you planning on disclosing more information for lenders to be more confident about having a right person use their money?
Well, I think you've got lots of questions within that question. I think you're asking a question about safety, trust, and verification, and our responsibility to sort of validate whether or the information that a person puts in their listing is actually true or not, and how we will then provide that information to the lender to make as sound a decision as they can, right? That's about kind of the gist of it, those 3 points? Yeah. Okay, so with respect to providing more information, yes, we're continuously sort of driving through what is the right balance of information to both protect the borrower's privacy and allow the borrower to reveal as much as they would like to reveal, but also to be certain that we are giving as much data to the lender as possible so that they can make a sound decision themselves. So yes, we're currently kind of taking a look at the next generation. As you remember, maybe it's been 2 months now that we released the key metrics, those 6 data points under the credit information. And that was really key because that then gave the lender the ability to see, what was delinquent? Has this person been delinquent before? Because, that's going to be a big driver. If they're late every single time, well, what's the possibility they're going to be late again? It's probably much higher. Whereas, this guy's never had a delinquency. Well, that's a pretty good bet that he's going to be a solid repayer, right? So some of that information is going to be revealed, and we're, just kind of stay tuned for some of that. We're balancing that now. In respect to contacting borrowers who don't pay, through the site, you can technically do it. We don't recommend it. We don't recommend that you get in touch. We've got state-of-the-art technology in place. We do in-house sort of follow through on our end if someone's late on a payment. And then we've got 3 of the best credit agencies out there who operate just like a credit card company does to go out, and we say let the professionals collect the money. Hang on. So we had 2 other points there. Did you want to touch on anything else?
Well, I think the overarching answer to your I think the overarching answer to your question is we approach the marketplace in the sense that we want to give we are truly a marketplace, and we want to give lenders the ability to see as much information as they need to make an informed decision while still protecting the borrower's privacy. So we don't want a situation where lenders are knocking on the doors of people who owe them $25, right, because they've gotten halfway through a loan and they're still out $25. At the same time, we recognize that it's important that we provide lenders with enough data such as credit information, information that, for example, this guy has had 4 recent listings. So you could look at those past listings, and if he represented himself as a woman or talked about his surgery, and on this one he doesn't mention it at all, that can be part of your vetting of this borrower. So that's kind of the overall approach that we have is we've got all this data, let's just present it in a way that makes sense, let people search on that and make their lending decisions based on that data.
Yes.
I'd like to follow up on Carl's question about if you went out of business. If I use this model, I want to diversify across a whole bunch of loans. So let's say I have 200 loans outstanding and your company goes out of business. Do I then have to do the paperwork on 200 different loans individually to get my money from these people?
No, we'll consolidate and aggregate that for you. You won't have to manage 200 loans.
We have an arrangement with a loan servicing company, and so we would basically transfer servicing of all those loans to that loan servicing company. But the loans are still held in your name, so effectively you own them. Yeah.
Can you go over recovery rates and are prepayments allowed?
Yes, prepayments are allowed. The question was, are prepayments allowed? Yes, they are. Recovery rates, I don't have data on recovery rates at the moment. We're kind of just moving to that stage of the game. I'll be able to release that, and that'll be on the site when it's available.
So it seems like there are 2 ways you can make this market a lot more efficient, and one was already mentioned, and that's creating an API and letting people control over there. Because doing it digitally is just not practical. And the other way is that you can sell loans onto other people, so you can not lock in the entire period. So I'm interested in what your intuition is for when you make the market more efficient in those 2 ways, how that's going to squeeze the returns, and whether it is significant or
Well, okay, so the question is, how do we continue to make the market more and more efficient? One is APIs, certainly that's going to help a lot. The second you're referring to is a secondary market for loans, and that's coming as well. We expect that to be available Q1 of 07, where we'll be able to take packages of loans and auction them just like we do with the individual borrower requests. So those are. It'll be like a bond market. It is. Well, this is. It's like another. This is a new asset class. It's consumer bonds. It's investing in people.
You should also mention standing orders because that's effectively an automated process.
Yeah, let me go back to the presentation for a minute because I think that when I mentioned to you that the process that I just showed you was how you make a manual bid, and this is what it looks like when you have made a manual bid. You can bid of increments of minimum of $50 again up to the top of the loan if you'd like. And you're making a bid at the lowest rate that you're willing to accept. So you may bid, while it may show up on the screen as 18%, you may actually have bid 15, but you'll hang in there until that auction process kicks in when a loan is fully funded. This is what it looks like. So you can see as you take a look at the to the far left, the bidders, there are lots and lots and lots of bidders at varying amounts at the rates that they're going to currently be available at, and then the amount that they bid on an individual basis. The red X's at the bottom are the folks that have been outbid, and then the check mark means that you're still currently in it. Here's the way to make a custom portfolio. This is an automated process for bidding, so you can either go in and make a manual bid. Some folks absolutely love that because they've got the ability to read through and they love the human contact that process gives them. In a custom portfolio or a standing order, you've got the ability to state the exact criteria that you want to match, and then we will automatically go out through the borrower database and find those requests that match exactly to your payment. And you can set almost any type of criteria that you want. For example, you could bid specifically on certain groups that you like. So there might be a group of school teachers that you think are a perfectly good investment, and you might select to have funds diverted to any loans filled in groups like that. You might say, I only want to bid on loans that are currently 75% or more funded. You can set various minimum credit grades that you'll accept and minimum rates that you're willing to accept within those credit grades, and then we will flush that out into the overall database and match you up with those requests. So I've touched on groups, and I think that groups are really important to note. We believe that the groups are kind of at the foundation of the Prosper marketplace. Groups can be any selected group of people who share a common interest. It can be a large group that can be huge. We've got a group that's well over 1,000 right now, and we've got other groups that are 5 or 6. And they come together based on whatever their common interests may be. It may be investing or boating, or it may be an ethnic background, or it may be just a core belief. They don't have to know each other, but they have to share a common belief or value system. And borrowers join specific groups to boost their reputation. So groups are joined together so that there's a sense of community around the borrowers in those groups. Borrowers join certain groups to boost their reputation and to overall achieve lower interest rates from those lenders. So individual lenders do exist. You do not have to be part of a group to borrow on Prosper, but we recommend to those borrowers that they join a group so that they have the benefit of the community and the sense of reputation. The group leader has a responsibility as well. The group leader can accept or reject members into the group, and they also are notified if a borrower is delinquent on a loan so that they can kind of touch bases with them and say, hey, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? Now, they don't carry any of the burden or responsibility for the repayment, but they do drive that overall sense of community and responsibility and the shame that is also associated with not paying back their loan. Can you be voted off the island? If you have a loan in a group, if you're a borrower with a loan in a group, you're kind of stuck in that group. There is the possibility for a group leader to take members out. Yes. Yes.
What's your feeling about the way groups are working so far? And most of the groups that I've seen seem to have a common interest to be able to get money from lenders. And there seems to be, it seems that ethnic groups or groups around anything else that's not credit related haven't gotten a lot of traction yet. I think that's important.
Right. Okay. So the question is about groups. How do we think the group model is working right now? And kind of what I can tell you right now is a lot of what we've been focused on in the past couple months in terms of our strategy has been focused on the lenders, making sure that the lender experience is rich and provides enough data to kind of keep moving forward. So we've been working on several enhancements with the lenders. We are currently kind of turning our attention to the groups, and we are giving a lot of deep thought to how the groups are working right now, what we want to see, what types of modifications need to be made. So stay tuned for that. There's a lot. I don't know whether Andrew might want to say anything more about the groups right now, but yes, that's an area that we're kind of, we've got data now. We can look and see how things have moved, and now we can say, okay, what's our next step here?
Yeah, let me actually talk a second about groups. The idea behind groups is really providing reputation to the borrowers who are members of those groups. And in the same sense that the group provides a good reputation to the borrower so that lenders will have more confidence in them, borrowers, by making repayments, can also provide a reputation to the group that this is a group that has borrowers who make repayments. What you're seeing on the site right now is really weak in that sense. All you can see is that this group has 20 loans and they're all current, or there's one late, or there's one that's 2 months late. But eventually we'll actually roll out a rating system for groups. And it's based on the group's ability to improve expected default performance. So you remember the chart about, A's are expected to default at 0.9%. If a group drives a better default rate for their A's, they'll get a 5-star rating, which would be the highest rating. If their A's are defaulting at 1.2%, they'd probably be below average 2-star or 1-star group, for example. That should give lenders a better sense of what does it mean to lend to this group. I'm Vietnamese, I really want to lend to this Vietnamese group, but they're always late and their rating as a result is 0 stars or 1 star. Is that really a group that I want to be involved with? And some lenders inevitably will say, yes, I really believe in these people, I want to help. We haven't quite gotten to the point in Prosper where people are doing charity loans, but I expect that if Hurricane Katrina had hit around this time this year, or if it had hit this year, it's possible that people would have put up listings, I need some money to make my rent in Houston, or whatever the situation was, where lenders could actually help people and maybe not even expect.
That's my next slide.
There you go. I'll let you keep going.
Prosper and socially responsible investing, which is, I'm sure you're all aware, there's been just huge buzz in this marketplace of socially responsible investing, double bottom line, microfinance, and we believe that Prosper is a fantastic platform. And we have, in fact, talked with many organizations on both sides of that equation, organizations that want to lend to others in need, and organizations who help those in need who want to open up their borrowers to the marketplace of lenders. So we think this is a huge market for us. We also see that there's a need to sort of have a double portfolio, perhaps on Prosper, that allows you to have one portfolio of loans that's here to to help entrepreneurs or others in need, and one portfolio that's geared towards making a good return. So that's kind of the balance that we're trying to hit on that side as well. Yes.
You mentioned Katrina. We just learned that during Katrina there was a lot of fraud. And if something like that happens this hurricane season, you'll probably have lots of listings for people saying, hey, I got wiped out, and people will have sympathy and they'll not give their money, and then those people will just vanish. How do you prevent that?
Well, the question has to do with fraud and fraud prevention. Here's a slide we have on security and risk management. I think that maybe what happened in Katrina were that maybe documents weren't required or things like that, but on Prosper Marketplace, we require that the borrowers provide us with all of their key data points, their driver's license number, their social security number. We access their credit history. We ask them the questions that only they would be able to answer, and we have a very stringent and automated in-house system that is rigorous tracking and management of the individuals, verification, validation, close interaction with the credit bureaus, and an individual's repayment is then tied back to the credit bureau as well. So that is at the heart of providing a safe marketplace, and that is one of the commitments that we have. So not only do we have the technology in place to help us with that, we also have people who are just managing and monitoring the overall process. It's a very safe system.
Yeah, specifically identity theft. Say I was able to get someone's social security number or driver's license number or a credit report. Somehow.
Right.
How do you prevent that? Have you actually had the experience with identity thieves on your site?
We catch most of the folks that come in and are trying to kind of dupe the system or something like that. But since we're requesting bank account verification and we do the challenge deposits like PayPal does, they have to then report back to us what those deposits were. So they'd have to have access to the account. And in addition,
could open an account, a brand new account, in the name of that person with that social security number, and then
right, so we also have other things at play in that system. Okay, so we're checking that. Have you ever applied for credit online and they ask you questions like, during the years of 1995 to 2000, where did you live? What street did you live on? So we have systems like that in place that are designed to, nobody would know the answer to that. I have a hard time remembering where I was living in 1995.
Yeah, can I address that?
Sure.
So to answer your question directly, we have had incidents of identity thieves come to the site, set up a profile, set up bank accounts, and attempt to transfer money. In all of those cases, we have certain rules in place that effectively say, if you're doing this, this, and this, we're going to check you out a little further. And we actually have a fairly well, although our technology has a well-developed risk model in it, we also have an identity verification team who reviews documents. And we actually request faxed social security numbers, bills.
So we'll talk to them.
Stuff. From people. So there have been a few incidents where people have tried this, and we've been able to catch them in all those cases.
None of your delinquencies, you haven't been around long enough to have a lot of delinquencies. None of your delinquencies were due to an actual identity thief. It turned out.
Well, not that we know of. We think that by now we would have known if there was someone who was trying to use someone else's bank account to get the money and transfer it out, and et cetera. The problem is that there's a huge paper trail in this system. So if you're really trying to get us, you've had to give us a ton of information, and it's not just your identity; it's your electronic paper trail, as it were, also. So.
Sorry, do you verify the information against the software that you develop? Because for the Katrina example, I could think of someone like giving you the real location of their address of this house and then creating listings and filling out a story that's completely approved. And yes, the information that you want is reliable, so people will get the money. But especially if you're giving money at an advantageous rate because of the person wrote, then I can see that being.
So the question has to do with in addition to validating the individual's credit history, do we also validate the story?
Yeah.
You wanna talk about it?
There are a couple. If you think about the Prosper system as a set of gates, there are a number of gates that a borrower has to go through before they get their money. Right? They have to verify their identity. They have to put their bank account on file. They have to get through lenders. Right? Lenders have to have the confidence to bid on them if they think that their story is legitimate. So before we even get to the point where we're thinking about sending them money for a loan, the community of lenders has to have decided that this is someone who not only is creditworthy, but is also seems to be a Katrina victim, for example. And that's backed up not only by their address information, their listing description, potentially pictures that they might upload, their group background. So you could see a group that set itself up as the New Orleans Red Cross and actually says that they verify that everyone in their group has shown them documentation and proven that they live in New Orleans, et cetera. So that's another gate. And then when they get to the point of us sending them money, we actually will look through listings and, in a fairly cursory way for some listings where we have a high degree of confidence, let them pass through. But for others where we think the stories don't check out, and we have lenders report those stories to us too, hey, can you check this out? This looks a little funky. They said this in this listing, but that in this listing. And we actually will verify that information. We've had people send the title for their car purchase and proof of employment at certain places and things like that. So we do go beyond basic identity verification when we suspect that there might be something going on.
And the lender community has emerged as just a very, very strong force. And so you can get into Yahoo groups and things like that the communication between lenders, they'll vet these borrowers down to the detail. And you'll see somebody say, I called so-and-so and asked them to fax me their whole credit report and their employment history, and I verified their email address was where they said they worked. And they'll go through this whole process. So there's additional off-site vetting that goes on. It's pretty interesting to see what emerges. But then you'll see everybody jump on. You'll see like a whole bunch of lenders kind of once they all kind of agree, okay, this is a good one, then you'll go boom, 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 and that loan will just fill up. Yes?
The lender having access to information about borrowers.
You can communicate on the site anonymously. So I can contact, if you're a borrower and I'm a lender, I can send you an email on the site saying, hey, here's my offline email address. I would like to get some more information before I bid on your loan. Can you contact me? So we allow that to occur.
What about lenders who, I've noticed the secondary market is important to have, and I know it's a good thing that's coming. The other thing that I've noticed is there's some lenders that are actually borrowing money
to lend.
Prosper loans.
Arbitrage.
Right, and they keep building it up, so there's multiple, they blended out all their money, then they ask for $25,000 more, and they go out and bid on more loans. It seems more like a pyramid scheme, because if they start defaulting, then that whole thing could come crashing down. Is there anything
Right, okay,
that you can do on that?
So we're talking about borrowers who borrow to lend on the site. You can only have one loan at a time. So you can't have 10 loans right now. So you in effect that would limit the ability. So if they have to pay back loan number 1 before they would get loan number 2, and if they're borrowing to lend on the site, their whole strategy, right, is to say, I want to make enough back in 1 month to cover what my loan payment is going to be. So because they're getting paid back, you get paid back on every loan every month, right? So that's the strategy. Do we have anything in place to prevent someone who might overexpose themselves or something like that? No, not really. But the borrower does, of course, have that responsibility of repayment and is responsible for their own credit, and that's what it's tied to. That's why only individuals can borrow too.
Don't you want people to do that? I mean, you want people to be arbitragers in the market because it's squeezing the spread. You just want your market to be as efficient as possible.
I want people to use the platform for what serves their purposes the best, as long as it's not doing anybody harm or causing anything unsafe to happen. So yeah, I think it's great.
So since the possibility of fraud and identity theft is one of the major risks as a lender, do you intend to be open about that process and have an open security model where you tell everybody what your verification methods are and you're open about incidents that have occurred in the past and you've caught coming down through? Or are you going to take a closed approach to security where you say, we have methods and we have to trust them?
I think we have a combination of both in place, and Andrew might want to speak to this a little bit more, or maybe not. I know that we have some technology in place for security and fraud protection that we don't talk about. It's our IP. It's how we do it. It's our secret sauce, and you can, it keeps you safe. That's just kind of the way it is. If we revealed it, then who knows? Maybe somebody would game it, and we just don't want to take that risk.
But you could reveal the statistics of it. Think that this percentage was fraudulent and caught that many. That would
Yeah, we may reveal that. We have not specifically discussed that, but in terms of a transparent marketplace, it may be something we choose to reveal. Just don't know right now.
I just wanted to comment about the arbitrage. And I think secondary markets would actually help with that.
Yes, I agree. So in terms of arbitrage, secondary markets would help, because someone who has built up this great portfolio, they can turn around and flip that back out onto the site. Yes, I think that's a good use for it. Yes?
Can I go back to the cost of acquisition for a second?
Excuse me?
So you said Prosper makes up 0.5%.
Yes.
And the minimum loan that you allow $1,000?
The minimum is $1,000, yes.
Okay, that's $5 per year.
It's, however that would amortize out, because we take it from the monthly payment. Yes, the other source of our income comes from borrower side. So the borrower pays a 1% origination fee at the time their loan closes. So we've got 1% on the borrower side, 0.5% on the lender side. Yes? Yes?
So when you release the API, you're hoping for the efficiency of the marketplace by everybody running bots on the site and saying, like, we will, making certain rules like we'll bid on this interest rate but not that interest rate, and so on and so forth. But do you think that there's danger of that degrading the community of the site if people just think they're going to be bidding against the peer and thereby devaluing the site?
I personally don't think there's any problem with people using the site through an API where they're not actually participating in a qualitative way on the site, because there's going to be plenty of community as it is. There's plenty of people who use eBay through an API and never go to the website, and they pump billions of dollars of business through eBay. So, and eBay doesn't really have a problem with that. And they have plenty of community going on with all those people who sell $10 and $20 items every month, but they really maintain kind of that ethos that eBay loves. So.
Yeah, yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. You want to go? I'm sorry.
I'm wondering if, so there are going to be some lenders who are better able to predict, looking at all these different metrics, the delinquencies and the pros, the description that they write. There are going to be some lenders who are better able to predict who's not in default. And so actually what I sometimes do is I look at what Golden Retriever's bidding on.
Right.
But there's no good way to do that except visually. And whatever he bids on or she bids on, I bid on, because it seems like we tend to look for the same things.
Right. So you're looking for a follow the leader sort of a...
Expose like which lenders are better able to predict who's not going to default, and maybe then allow lenders to form communities where they share that information. So maybe I do a little research in one guy, figure out whether he's good, or
Right. These are great ideas. Yes, we are likely to release sort of a follow the leader approach to bidding, where you might say, hey, I love the way that SellerDoor does this, and I want to follow him. And we would, of course, allow SellerDoor to say, yes, it's okay for me if people follow, or no, it's not. And then they could reveal kind of their standing order, so to speak, for how they bid on the system. So, and yet, lender groups, that's another item up on the table. The other idea is, should lenders have the ability to be anonymous? If you're going to allow people to follow lenders, should you also allow them to be anonymous? So see, these are some of the
information they're giving out for free, basically. The fact that they bid on something.
right. But yet on these smaller closed communities of discussion, they all tag together anyway. So it's these are all ideas that are on the table. Yes.
So as PayPal grew, they seem to have more and more trouble fighting fraud. They spend a large percentage of their resources fighting fraud. How scared are you of that? And what do you, other than the things you have in place that seem to be working fine now, how do you think you're going to struggle as you grow and fraud becomes?
Fraud is just one of those things I think you always just have to stay, one step in front of. There's always going to be new ideas. There's always going to be people trying to game the system. And if your technology is always just one step ahead and you're on top of the system, you have a much better chance. But as we saw with PayPal, it's it's an ongoing struggle. And do you want to address that any further? Yeah, it's unfortunately it's part of the world that we live in.
I look forward to the day when we get to PayPal scale and we have to worry about fraud at that level.
Yes.
So when I fund my account, say I fund it and I have a standing order, so the money's sitting there for a while. What interest am I earning on that money?
Currently, you do not earn interest on the site. That's another area that we're seeking to come up with the best resolution for. We're registered as a lending institution, not a bank. Banks can pay interest, lending institutions cannot. We're working through kind of what the best case scenario is. And again, that's kind of what PayPal had to determine for themselves is what was the best model. So that's something that we expect to have an announcement by, I would say conservatively by the end of the year on. But right now you don't. But you can transfer funds on a regular basis. And I think relatively soon we're going to have an automated ability too. So you might say on the site, you might say, I want to transfer $500 a week or $1,000 a week or a month onto the platform so that you would have the ability to leave the money into an interest-bearing account, having it transferred in as you want to put it to good use.
What I would want is something where I didn't have to make sure that the money was flowing in at the same rate it was flowing out, so that I could just, maybe have it on demand. If I have a standing order that's up to $5,000, then as those loans get taken out, you call up my bank and pull money out, so that I don't ever have to have money sitting around or no interest, because that's going to obviously depress my return. But more important than that is just not having to deal with it myself.
Right. No, I hear you.
And we're actually almost there. I mean, at this point, we're about to build recurring transfers like monthly transfer, weekly transfer. But standing orders already work in the sense that you could say, I only have $20,000 in the system, but this standing order has $100,000 worth of capacity, so that when any transfer hits my account, it's automatically going to get lent out through that standing order. And whenever enough funds are available from repayments, they will also get bid out into new bids. So the system is already sort of fully automated.
So you can have a standing order that's not actually fully funded and it just won't get activated?
It won't start bidding until there's money there to place the bid.
But it'll stay in place, ready to fire.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've always been a little skeptical of groups on Prosper. I think the motivation is right. I can see them working in micro lending in East Asian countries where it's been tried already, because the people, you've grown up with them, they're from your village and so on. But here I'm in the same room as Mike and 996 and other equally obscure screen names people I've never met. And so I'm wondering why you think I would feel some sort of responsibility to people who might be in it just to get a membership as well. And it's not, and it's been compared to eBay. Imagine if eBay had seller groups. A seller would be very keen on being part of a group with a high reputation, because that's that seller's bread and butter. If a seller group reputation falls, then that seller is screwed. But here, I may go away with 10, 25 grand. Group gets the reputation's gone to hell, but I don't care.
Right, and in the same way that on eBay, the seller has the incentive is set up for the seller to perform. On our site, it's that the group leader is incented to perform. It's not necessarily the borrowers, because the idea is that the group leader brings borrowers into their group that they feel a high level of confidence for, that they will improve the reputation of their group. There are a lot of group leaders who admittedly are just trying to sort of, what's it called?
Just grow, for the sake of
trying
growing.
To slash and burn, like they're just grabbing all those borrowers out there who don't have groups, and they're saying, "Hey, come on in," and the water's fine. And ultimately, what will happen to those groups is that they'll have really poor reputations. Lenders won't lend to them, and those group leaders will leave the system. So it's the problem is that there just hasn't. It's a chicken and egg problem. There's been not enough time. There's not enough reputation available yet. But ultimately, that's.
What are the incentives for the group leaders?
There's a match reward fee. So when a group leader brings in a borrower of a particular grade, they're paid a match fee, and then they're paid a percentage of the repayments over the life of the loan. So the group leader is incented on the return, so that drives it as well. And I think another thing is, this is an example of a letter, an email that went up on the site saying, "Hey, thanks. If you've got a borrower who literally didn't have other options that were nearly as good, they're really grateful. I mean, they really are truly like, wow, this is a lifesaver to me. I couldn't have gotten this, or I consolidated. I was paying 29%, and I was not making a dent in the principal. I was paying just interest every month, and now all of a sudden they've got a different opportunity. I'm not saying that that's the 100% of the population, but there's a significant percentage, and when there's someone who feels so grateful, you can bet that if it's a difference between paying their Chase bill or their Prosper bill, they're going to pay us.
I think what you need is a network, sort of a LinkedIn type network type thing, so that I can say, here are my references. And that increases my ability to borrow from other people. More like a microfinance type thing where a villager knows somebody else, somebody knows somebody else.
So somebody's vouching for someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mutual fund, right? I mean, so some people are very good at vetting, so they have that lender group and they say, okay, we're venture capital here, we're funding these.
I love it. I love that. Yes.
Why do you think mainstream banks have missed opportunities to give loans to people like this?
Oh, that's a big question. Why are banks not doing this right now? I think that it's so far and away from what they've done in the past that it just slips outside, and they've got such stringent barriers on the types of loans that they make. They don't look to the person. And this, for the first time, is allowing lenders to look at the people and say, you know what, it's okay you were delinquent on one. I believe you. I believe that medical history problem, or the inability to pay the bill because your father died, or whatever it is, I believe in that, and I'm going to lend you the money. A bank is not going to do that. So it's hard for a bank to go from this model of here's the framework, don't deviate, and sorry, that's what the book says we have to do here, to this model. I just don't think they're ready to, they may get there, but not today. But this is the right way to go. Yes.
So back to the groups. One thing that you said initially was that your acquisition costs would be very low due to the groups. Now you're talking about the groups giving all these benefits by basically giving the reputations to their borrowers. That does seem to be a very weird double role that you're intended for the group. So what's the deal here?
In terms of, it's going to be too expensive to acquire borrowers through the group leader's efforts, or what's the...
The idea is that the borrowers actually pay the group leader for the reputation. So that payment...
in the beginning, in the first or second slide, you said that it would be cheap for Prosper to acquire new borrowers. That's sort of into the groups, which sort of implies that you plan on the group leaders finding and bringing in new borrowers.
Right.
Whereas now you're talking about that the point of the groups is to validate and transfer their reputation onto the borrowers. And for me, that seems like a strange double mode. What's the deal?
Well, the idea is that... Well, the idea is that the group leader is earning money by bringing people onto the platform, right? That money is actually being paid by the people who come onto the platform. So it's effectively as if you were a group leader and I came to you as a borrower and I said, I'm willing to pay you 2% of my loan if you will provide me the reputation of your Google employee group. And you'd say, okay, you're a Google employee and I trust you, and here we go. So I create a listing. Every time I make a repayment, you get 2% of my interest rate, right? So,
but that's a little bit different than what you had initially. Initially, I think on the slide it was, you said that the acquisition cost for new borrowers would be very low.
Yes, it's still low compared to what the banks.
Prosper's cost is acquiring leaders, not necessarily borrowers.
Indeed, but your example just was that the borrower would be coming to the leader instead of the other way around, because this acquisition cost example would be just...
Right, when I was talking about acquisition costs, I'm talking about compared to what the banks pay to acquire their, and this is far less than that is. So, yes?
So I want to understand a little more about, my ultimate question is going to be to ask about international. We asked the prerequisite question, which is, do the defaults on Prosper go back into credit ratings?
Yes, it's reported back to the credit bureaus. So not only is it a good way for an individual, so for us to sort of drive the responsibility side of it, but it's also a really good way for borrowers with either very thin credit files or newly out of school or new to the country or something like that. They can build a credit file here as well. Yes.
So a lot of what makes this work now is the tying to credit ratings. But of course, I mean, you guys have the right general long-term idea about microcredit and sort of helping really poor people. And of course, there are a lot more of those in the developing world. So what are your really, I mean, I realize they're long-term, but what are your really long-term visions for international expansion and how to deal with the fact that there aren't these established credit ratings out there?
Right. Yes, most countries don't have credit ratings, so I think we're on the on the leading edge of that.
The way that microfinance does that is that they have these groups, but then there's a lot more. You actually suffer as a borrower if there are people in your group, which it doesn't look like you do now.
Right. No, I hear you. When we go international, there's going to be all kinds of issues to address on all of those fronts. How do we detail the credit in the same way that we do here? Well, it won't be done in the same way. It's going to have to be a model that fits the cultural dynamics of that country, and the group dynamics, the group side of that equation is going to have to also be modified. So I don't know the answers to that right now, but we know we want it. We'd love to go global.
Do you have any plans to actually punish people, the individual reputations of a group, given poor performance or faulty?
We just haven't even gone there yet. Okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to comment on I think what really matters is not the credit rating, but the default rates.
We will we'll provide those as we get them, because again, our key belief is that in communities that have the sense of responsibility and the corresponding sense of shame, that the repayments are going to be higher and the defaults are going to be lower. But that'll be proven out when we're able to reveal the rates.
Just to be totally upfront about it, we haven't had any defaults yet, because defaults are defined as
120 days
on the first due date of the loan, plus 1 month of lateness, plus 3 months of collection. So we're not going to start seeing defaults, if we have any, until mid-July. And so at this point, publishing 0 will be not helpful. What we'll start publishing, though, is delinquencies, right? Because late payments is a problem, and that it's an indicator to defaults.
Yes. Oh.
I'm sorry?
Will also be publishing repayment rates?
Yes.
And interest rates, what grades are getting what interest rates?
Yeah,
we've got that on the site now.
We're already showing that.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm specifically at what the upside is on being an early lender is assumed on risk. Is it taking on like the high risk loans, the higher risk types of loans?
Right.
Placing sort of you're more gambling in this stage of the game. Or hoping that these people are going to behave.
Well, it's true. It's truly not gambling, because you are hopefully basing it on the data that's provided and making a Well, we have the Experian default rates, which are my expectation, my full expectation is that our default rates are going to be a lot lower than that, and that's just my expectation. I don't have any proof of that at the moment. But any other incentives I think that the best part of being an early adopter here is that you're growing with the community. The rates are fantastic right now, and I keep going back to where else can a private investor get rates like this at the same time they're part of a brand new industry, cutting edge, new asset class, and have the ability to be part of the community and grow the whole thing, and at the same time be earning this kind of money. And some people have strategies where they go all high risk. That's all they want. And their portfolio looks like 100 loans at 28% return. Well, we know there's going to be, the historical data says, well, it's going to be between 15 and 29% default rates on 100 loans. So, they're still looking at, you could easily say, well, why don't you just go all double A's at 8% and just, call it a day. But the fun for them, the enjoyment of the whole process is that they're vetting and they're going through the process and they're walking through and they're, taking a big hand in what their outcome is. My personal strategy is to kind of spread it around. I like a diversified strategy that's got, bits and pieces in every bucket that will, overall provide, I have about 320 loans in my portfolio earning about 13% return right now. I like it. It's all mixed up. It's, I think it's pretty safe. It feels good. So, but everybody comes up with what works best for them.
Do you have the distribution info of this? Like what fraction of the people are interested in this?
We can, but it's actually pretty even. The overwhelming majority of listings are in the lower credit scores, but the actual loans that are made are pretty even across, distributed across.